Mike Pence and Kellyanne just announced the best news about what Trump just decided to do for America. Looks like America will remain great till at least 2025. One of President Donald Trump's most staunch allies, White House counselor Kellyanne Conway, said Sunday that President Trump plans to run for a second term, putting to rest a recent fake news report that suggested uncertainty about his running in 2020. This morning Conway told George Stephanopoulos on ABC's This Week that the president privately and publicly has stated multiple times that he'll be the president of the United States of America for 7.5 more years, so that would make him a two-term president. In that same news show, Conway also put to rest the latest fake news story coming out of the Mexican Carlos Slim's New York Times, where they made the accusation that a shadow government was trying to push Vice President Mike Pence to run against Trump in 2020. The New York Times falsely reports. Mr. Pence also installed Nick Ayers, a sharp-elbowed political operative, as his new chief of staff last month, a striking departure from Vice President's long history of elevating a government veteran to be their top staff member. Mr. Ayers had worked on many campaigns but never in the federal government. Some in the party's establishment wing are remarkably open about their wish that Mr. Pence would be the Republican standard-bearer in 2020, Representative Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania said. For some, it is for ideological reasons, and for others it is for stylistic reasons, Mr. Dent said, complaining of the exhausting amount of instability, chaos and dysfunction surrounding Mr. Trump. Mr. Pence has made no overt efforts to separate himself from the beleaguered president. He has kept up his relentless public praise and even in private is careful to bow to the president. Mr. Pence's aides, however, have been less restrained in private, according to two people briefed on the conversations. In a June meeting with Al Hubbard, an Indiana Republican who was a top economic official in Mr. Bush's White House, an aide to the vice president, Marty Obst, said that they wanted to be prepared to run in case there was an opening in 2020 and that Mr. Pence would need Mr. Hubbard's help, according to a Republican briefed on the meeting. Reached on the phone, Mr. Hubbard declined to comment. Mr. Ayers has signaled to multiple major Republican donors that Mr. Pence wants to be ready. Mr. Obst denied that he and Mr. Ayers had made any private insinuations and called suggestions that the vice president was positioning himself for 2020 beyond ridiculous. For his part, Mr. Pence is methodically establishing his own identity and bestowing personal touches on people who could pay dividends in the future. He not only spoke in June at one of the most important yearly events for Iowa Republicans, Senator Joni Ernst's pig roast, but he held a separate, more intimate gathering for donors afterward. When he arrived in Des Moines on Air Force 2, Mr. Pence was greeted by an Iowan who had complained about his experience with the Affordable Care Act, and who happened to be a member of the state Republican Central Committee. The vice president has also turned his residence at the Naval Observatory into a hub for relationship building. In June, he opened the mansion to social conservative activists like Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council and representatives of the billionaire kingmakers Charles G. and David H. Koch. At large gatherings for contributors, Mr. Pence keeps a chair free at each table so he can work his way around the room. At smaller events for some of the party's biggest donors, he lays on the charm. Last month, Mr. Pence hosted Kentucky coal barons Kelly and Joe Kraft, along with the University of Kentucky men's basketball coach, John Calipari, for a dinner a few hours after Ms. Kraft appeared before the Senate for her hearing as nominee to become ambassador to Canada. Isn't it hilarious how the fake news media is now resorting to wishful thinking by saying that Trump won't run for re-election in 2020? They try to convince us that the people have turned their backs on President Trump by citing polls, the same polls who had crooked Hillary Clinton winning by a chance of 97%, or over 20 percentage points. They tell us there is now voter remorse by those of us who supported and voted for Trump in 2016. But I personally have never heard of anyone who voted for Trump who today says they wished they could take their vote back. In fact, I know many people who didn't vote for Trump who have now become Trump supporters after seeing how he has kept his word and is doing the best for the American people, not big business or foreign powers, but for the American people. Any way you look at it, it's nice to see the left-wing meltdown after years of them claiming we on the right were the ones who wanted social chaos and were unhinged, while we saw former President Barack Hussein Obama turn our great nation into a petri dish of social justice experiments. Make America even greater in 2020. Please share if you will vote for President Trump in 2020. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe Breaking News 365 channel. Goodbye and see you again.